All right, everyone. So today what we're going to do is look at, we're going to look at how do you take this line work and produce it into a drawing, right? So um, without prescribing to you what your drawing should look like, a lot of what we're going to do today is going to have to do with options. So I'll start off by looking at maybe just one analysis of a set of lines, and then looking at whether or not you use line versus shadow and shading and stuff like that. So it's going to be sort of not structured. It's not super structured. We're just going to kind of look at options, see what it looks like, and then try to understand how we might approach certain graphic endeavors, I guess you would say. So this is a very simple analytical drawing. We're going to start with the section and look at it in a couple different ways. Okay. The other thing we're going to do is look at producing this in both AutoCAD and Illustrator, and what the difficulties, the benefits, and pros and cons basically are of choosing one versus the other. Okay. So what questions do you have about that before we get started? Okay, and then another quick note is that a number of you have been reporting to me that the graphics exporting process for the shade and shadow study for some reason is significantly slower than the weather data exporting process. So I think what we're going to do is for any time that we're having significant difficulties getting the export properly, it's okay to use a screen cap. So at some point tonight, I'm hoping I'll be able to show you the screen cap, but if it doesn't fit, we'll get into that next week. Okay, so let's begin then. So I'm going to start with the AutoCAD settings. When I say that we're going to have to modify the plot style settings, how many of you know what I'm talking about?
You mean like the layout sheet size and all that?
No, the plot style settings. Okay, so then that's probably what we're going to have to focus on. When I say setting up the layout sheet, that's your cue. How many of you know what I'm talking about? All right, so that's most of you. I can't see the bottom of my screen. Okay, so I'll quickly review setting up the sheet very, very quickly. And if you guys need more detail on just sheet setup, viewport placement, scales, and stuff like that, at some point I'll point you to some videos. But I won't be able to spend as much time on that kind of stuff here today. So anyway, in AutoCAD, one of the features you have here is basically the layout, right? So if you go down to the bottom where it says Model and then Layout 1, if you click into Layout 1, this is what you will see. So I hope most, if not all of you, have seen this before. This is basically your sheet. So a layout is basically in AutoCAD synonymous with sheet. And the very significant part of a sheet is the idea of a viewport. So viewports are, they act like geometry where you can modify them by, resizing, scaling, rotating, whatever. But really what they are is a window into model space. So if this lives in model space, I can pull it outside of the window, I can pull it into the window, and work with it however I see fit. And then once you select the viewport or activate, double click to get inside the window, you can change the scale here. Okay, so I'm not going to go through the whole explanation of how to set a scale, but very simply put, what we're going to do is just try and find a scale that's going to work for the sheet. So what I'm doing on this assignment is I'm going to be looking at the lines, sorry, what am I trying to say? I'm going to be looking at the lines of the sun angle all on one diagram. some of you are not going to be doing it all on one diagram, so you might need multiple layouts in order to do this. And I'll point you to a video or two if you need to know how to do multiple layouts, but again, I'm not going to explain that today. So a viewport for me, for my purposes here, really, I can just pull my viewport outside of the layout, and that will give me a full screen workspace to work from. And all I have to do is activate that viewport and get it to fit. So if eighth isn't going to work, something like half, maybe more. Yeah, those could work too. I don't know. One might be. Yeah. Okay. So one will be okay. All right. So once you place your view, it's really just a matter of setting up the plot settings, right? So there's not that much to it. If I want to do this rather simply, the first thing I'm going to do personally is just look at one of my layers. So let me get the layers up, actually. So you might not have done this the same way I did. Stop. You might not have done this the same way I did, but I put all of my sun angles on different layers. If you separated your diagrams into 3 separate ones, it might be appropriate to do them all as the same layer. That's up to you in determining whether or not you are creating a set of diagrams or one compilation diagram that has them all overlaid on top of one another. So for my purposes here, I created the summer solstice, the winter solstice, and the equinox. And I approximated the equinox at 52 degrees because we had 51 and change and 53 and change, so I just went with 52. So to start off, I'm going to turn off the equinox and the winter solstice and look at just my summer angles. So this is a pretty significant thing. Oh, it's a little hard for you to see there. The downside of this is I'm going to have to keep switching these colors back and forth so you can see them.
Why don't you just make the background black? Oh man,
That's all right. I like to be able to see the difference between model space and paper space. All right, so what I have here is my summer solstice angle. And if I'm looking at what it's going to look like right now, if I just decide to print it, I can right click, go to plot, and check out, oh, preview won't let me do it until I have a plotter. So Adobe PDF, and look at my preview. And what you'll see is that the preview of the sheet has everything in color, everything is the same line weight, so on and so forth. So to recap on some of the settings that you're going to be concerned with, let's go to the plot or page setup manager. This is where you're going to set your plotter. This is where you're going to set the paper size, what type of cropping it's going to have. If you're using transparencies, then you'll turn that on and off, so on and so forth. But most significantly, and the one that's really going to play into us doing hatch patterns and overlays and transparencies is going to be the plot style table. So in doing that, I want to offer sort of a good general rule of thumb. If you are creating a all black line drawing, no transparencies at all, no hatches, usually you can get away with setting monochrome. Usually. Because monochrome is going to allow you to set your line weight here in your properties manager. And then, again, we're going to be doing PDF, actually. So always, this is a good general rule of thumb, too. I just want to throw out to you guys. When you're working in AutoCAD or Revit or any other architectural production software, even the Adobe programs, never print directly to a printer. Print to PDF, and then print from PDF to a printer.
Why is that?
When you're printing out of here, it's difficult to control the, like the full bleeds and everything like that. You get a lot more controllability with it as a PDF, not to mention better quality, because when you print from here directly to PDF, you can control the resolution, you know, basically how many DPI, right? The size of it, a little bit better than you can printing from here directly to a printer. So I guess we're going to do 8.5 by 11s, I said, last class, I think. Yeah, so 8.5 by 11, I can leave it at letter. What to plot as layout is going to be fine because that's just going to print the sheet, and landscape should be good to go. So if I'm doing everything in black, I'm not doing transparencies, this would be the setting that you want. So I'm going to hit OK, close that out, and I'm about to get started setting up my layers. But before I do that, and since this video is getting longer, are there any major questions that popped up in this review? Yes?
You said that you could get away with monochrome. What would you use otherwise for like more I guess?
Anytime you need transparency, like a shaded overlay or something like that, or two shaded overlays that show. We're gonna do it today, so you'll see. Also, if you have to include any kind of color, I would say make your own custom one, and we're gonna do that today. Okay?